Welcome back to the Sheriff Bloody. You know what it is. I'm of course the one and only triple the G.O.D. That is your Queen Sweet K and Squish Murder right here holding the shotgun, baby. And welcome back to the show proper. Um, I just got finished watching the first Space Squad. That's Dekaranger versus Gavan. For a couple of reasons. The most obvious, of course, is I'm trying to get ready for Gavan Infinity because what's leading into the point of this video of me trying to sit up here and trying to get back into the mix and the mode of like understanding like what metal heroes, if Toei even going to go that way with where metal heroes was at the point when this movie came out. Allow Unc to set the stage. I want to go back to a far off time of the year 2009. Uncle Triple still in the mode of finding himself, and Kamen Rider Climax Heroes comes out, right? And then that sits up here and starts my true delve into Tokusatsu. Y'all know this part of the story. You know what I'm saying? So the reason why I bring up that point is our Lord Honore D. Kato, aka Honore Dick that big dick them big down though. Or Honore, I sit up here and take over your world with Dai Shocker though. All that started this craze within Toei of the anniversary and why it matters for real when we put it on that stage. Remember, DK was the celebration of the Heisei era at that point of 10 shows, doing all that, celebrating that when Cougar came back, and that's the reason why I bring this up as words. As Super Sentai's on its way out, Metal Heroes on its way back in, you have to remember technically Metal Heroes was on its way out when Kamen Rider came back in, right? Because that's the history. But again, Decado was a hit, but it wasn't a hit, but it was a hit. However, though, following the swell of Decado, we got a couple of Sentais later, we got introduced to the Super Goat, Captain Marvelous. That nigga Marvelesu, that boy. What happened to that guy? Because he the goat, right? Gokaiger changed Tokusatsu forever. You may not get a lot of people that may agree with me on that point, but what Gokaiger did not only for the celebration of Sentai, but how Toku can work when it comes to celebrating your franchises is once Gokaiger did it on that big level stage, then Ultraman went and did it. So then years later, Kamen Rider would come back to that with that boy Young Time. Young Time. You know what I'm saying? I really think they really did it real big. Because when I think about the other time that they could have done it was Forza was supposed to be a whole different show if you didn't know. Go watch the first two episodes of Forza of what they were trying to build about the mythos and the legend of the Kamen Rider and how different the show was supposed to be before Gintoku was what's up, cuz hitting them with the secret handshake and shit, right? But again, in the midst of all of this, here come the Metal Heroes coming back all of a sudden out the blue, right? You know what I'm saying? You had You had the return movies. You had Metal Heroes mixing in with Sentai when you had Gavan versus Gokaiger and all that old crazy shit. Then you had the Versus series and the superhero war movies and all that old crazy shit doing it long before Marvel did it and all of that craziness. You have to understand, Toei spent years trying to make Gechi Ichimonji work. They tried to make Homeboy work, and boy was everywhere. But equally understand that even though, yeah, we finna get to Geki, you have to understand shit was just coming back. Like, remember that? Remember those episodes of XA? Oh, not XA. What I'm talking about, XA. Those episodes of Guy that had Kikaider in that motherfucker? I bet you don't. I bet you do not remember that Kikaider crossed over with Kamen Rider. It was a whole thing, and it's also fucking canon. So you take that for what it is. You had all kind of shit coming back. That's why Kamen Rider Amazons exist, because it's kind of like we can make this work on a different level that Toei was just trying to figure out where on the level they can meet their fans. Hell, we sitting up here talking about Space Squad. This should be that shout out to the Akiba Rangers. That was Toei trying to figure out what level we can meet our older fans on, right? And I would love to see more Akiba Ranger. I think Amazons is a great show, and I'm glad that it's over in its own little corner so that you can separate it from what Kamen Rider normally is. But that show goes places, and I'm glad it was allowed to go places and do that because I'm just sitting there for mentioning it. However, though, let's get back to Geki. Let's get back to Geki. And Toei's repeated attempts to push him. He was just showing up in places really heavy. Episodes of Go Busters, he was in those. If we talking about Metal Heroes and Super Sentai, Jiraiya crossed over with the ninjas, but that's kind of different. You know what I'm saying? Something. Sheriff's got fire. I'm not. We're not gonna get into this right now. I'm not gonna get into Sheriff's got fire right now. I'm not gonna do that. No, 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 no. Not gonna do that. The point of all of that backstory and building is we are 9 years since this movie came out, and we know after the next one, which I'm actually going to review and like give like a review of Space Squad versus Kyuranger, selling all the rainbow lean, you know what I'm saying? You know, moving the drugs and galactic presidents and shit, of understanding that Toei gets weird when they get to pushing shit. And knowing what I know about Gavan Infinity, and they talking about it's a super duper reboot, complete reboot. None of the old stuff matters. So there won't be any rescue. There won't be any Geki. There won't be in any relation to any of the other Metal Hero shows or nothing. I highly doubt that. But again, my whole question for this is how does this actually work? Because again, we sit at the result of Toei gets weird when pushing stuff. Look, here is my finest example of this. Does anyone out there remember Foundation X? Anybody? Anybody? Didn't fucking think so. Foundation X was the coolest shit for a long time. That the one uniting thread through the first couple of post decay shows was Foundation X. We make everything memories. We know about the metal. We know about the switches, and after that, nothing, because they really didn't have nothing to do with the wizard ring. So Foundation X just mystically stopped, and then they randomly got name dropped in the movie and writer kicked out of existence. So there's that whole thing. Again, you have to I'm like I said, I watched the movie because I wanted to like delve back into my fandom about when I was excited. Because here's the other thing that I didn't mention. You equally have to understand that 2 years prior to this, Toei got some real damn information about what fans really want. And the answer is what they've been giving you every 5 years since 2015. Dekaranger. Lots and lots of fucking Dekaranger. Yes, we should talk about Fireball Booster. I would love to. I'll watch that movie another 50 fucking times so I could just sit up here and say Bon Bon Accounts is the fucking lower hole L's bitch. I don't have no problem with that whatsoever fucking ever. But again, that's just where we are right now in the 2017 of this movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, I should mention Mama Hero League. I should mention that. Or was it called Super Mama League or whatever it was called? It was Sentai women like we got babies, but we kick ass too. Hooray! You know what I'm saying? So that was going on. What I'm like, we could talk about episode zero of Space Squad, man. Shout out to badass Benny Kage. You know what I'm saying? Sitting up here putting in work and shit. You know what I'm saying? I really think that the Kamen Rider Girls movie they've been coming out with the past couple of years, or not to that, and I really think they should do more. But with Zex being what it is, who knows? Especially with, and here's a spoiler alert for this weekend. Koreha got her own nickname. Her name's Sexy Sylvia because she's Lord Six. Six Machine, Hitchin' the Go-Go Babies. Yeah, so y'all be hearing about Sexy Sylvia this weekend. So you know what I'm saying, it is what it is with that. They should do more of those more often. But the only other reason that I made this video because I want to talk my shit is because I'm finding that time again to get back into watching Sentai and watching Kamen Rider and enjoying currently what's available for Ultraman and all the other homemade toku stuff that's out there like Batar. That's fucking crazy because they got Lord Decado in it and that shit going fucking stupid. So whatever. But I wonder about like the other shit, like the Tomica series and stuff like that. I wonder why they don't do anniversary shows and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like you sit up here and you ask that question. So I don't know. But regardless of that, you know what I'm saying? That's all I really want to say. That I really want to sit up here because again, we're gonna be watching the trailers this weekend. Every day we're gonna watch the trailers, sit down and just sit up here and absorb what Gavan Infinity is trying to give me, and letting y'all know how I feel about it because I want to be ready and able to literally clear my plate. That's the other reason I watched the damn movie, and I'm gonna watch Space Squad versus Q Ranger because I want to make sure that I want to see the how and or why this Geki thing fell on his face when it literally was something perfect. I mentioned that in the overview, which I will link in the description about why a grandiose plan like that didn't succeed the way you thought it could. Maybe it was budget. Maybe the Q Ranger joint didn't do what it needed to. I don't know. But it's interesting to see, like when I watched my own review of it, and I was super hyped for the possibilities. I want to be that hype for Gavan with the possibilities because Gavan Infinity has some big hope, got has some big shoes to fill with Sentai going bye bye. And I don't think that's a hard load to bear for Super Sentai to be replaced by Metal Heroes. But it's going to be interesting regardless to see what this transition is because for the first time in like 40 some odd years, there's not going to be a Sentai. Even given what going on with Power Rangers right now, how technically Power Rangers doesn't exist in a way you think it would, except through toys and the first 30, 40 episodes of Power Rangers. But who knows? We shall see. But I'm just trying to think before we get up out of here, anything else I can really think of? You should watch the movie if you haven't. It's a really good movie. I don't 101% believe you need the Sentai of Dekaranger or any knowledge of Gavan to enjoy a Koji Sakamoto joint, but it helps if you know you're rooting for Lord Bonacasa. It helps that Yumiko and Jasmine are your crushes, that Sin is that dude, and Hoji is the best I vote. And of course you got Akira, you know what I'm saying? And of course Lord Doggy Kruger and his swan wife. So you know it is what it is. And Gavan, you know what I'm saying? You need that. But we go off of that. We got plenty of more show for all of y'all. So please sit back, relax, and stay tuned. That is your Queen Sweet K. It's the Ghost Squish Murder. You know me, it's your Uncle Grandpa Triple live on TGRF TV with you. So you come back, we got more crack. You be amazing, you be awesome, you be beautiful. And like I said, we have more show for you right after these commercial messages. Gavan Infinity coming hood soon to a hood near you. More show after this.